Good morning, friends. Yesterday we have started the chapter Environment and Natural Resources. Under this chapter, what was the main issue that the geographical matters and environmental matters have now become a an important issue of world politics. And what is the reason behind including the geographical, environmental, and uh, matters of natural resources under the review of uh, world politics? The reason is that these problems, though they are environmental in nature, they are geographical in nature, but these problems involve the government of the a particular country. In order to solve the environmental problems, what is required? The effort must be done from the part of the government. Then only we can think of its effective implementation. And moreover, the problems of environment are not confined to any boundary, but actually in this direction, in order to improve the condition of environment, the effort at the national level will not be sufficient. What is required, that there must be effort at the international level, because these problems are not a problem of a particular country, but these are the problems which are global in nature. So in order to solve problems like this, we need to start effort at the global level. And for that, what will be required? There will be requirement of cooperation of countries, and for this we need, and because of this, this environmental and geographical matter become an issue of world politics. Moreover, one more thing, why it becomes an issue of world politics. It becomes an issue of world politics because wherever there is an international treaty or international convention regarding any matter, here we are concerned with environmental matters. So, whenever any international treaty or convention is done for the purpose of saving the natural resources or saving the environment, in this kind of treaty, what happens that the country who uh, uh, who has more influence, the country who has more power, they try to get more benefit. They try to hold more control of important resources. So, in this way, this issue of environment and resources, which are primarily topics of geography, but they become a matter of world politics. And now, the next segment is that what efforts at the global level has been done for the protection of the environment. In this connection, very important thing we must remember that any effort at the global level started from the 1960s. Before that, there was no such awareness at the global level that there is a need to protect the environment. Environmental degradation was not a global issue, and the people were not paying any type of attention towards these environmental problem. But with the passage of time, what happened, that the level of pollution and the depletion of resources became so high that all these matters became the focus of the world community. And it started with the publication of a book in 1972, and the name of the book is Limits to Growth, and it was published by the Club of Rome. I told you yesterday we discussed these things. So this is very much important, and you must remember this, that limits to growth. It means कि we can adopt the path of economic growth. We can we are the most important aim of a country to achieve economic growth. But in order to achieve that economic growth, how we make our environment, how we degrade our environment, how we pollute our environment, all these things are the focus of this book. Then United Nations Environmental Program started holding many international conferences regarding this. And then we find that in 1987, Brundtland Committee has presented its report, and the title of the report was Our Common Future. And I told you yesterday also, common future, it means that all the human beings are connected with each other, and if we are polluting the environment, if we are overusing the resources, then it will be cause a problem not to a particular country, but the whole humanity will be suffering because of this. And who will be suffering? Not our generation, but our future generation will be the sufferer, because we are not leaving anything for them. We are not adopting the path of development in such a way that we are not preserving anything for the future generation. And it means that we are not adopting the policy of sustainable development. Okay, so all these things were came to light because of Brundtland committee report. And then there was a major a very important incident was that in the field of global effort for the protection of environment, that was United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. United Nations held a conference, and in the conference was held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in 1992. This conference is also known as Earth Summit. So all these things were discussed yesterday, and then what we were discussing, the most important thing was the matter of South and North. Okay, what is the problem of global south and global north? Actually, first of all, you must understand what is global south and global north. Global south is the those countries which are located in the mostly located in the southern part of the globe, and global north, those countries which are mostly located in the northern part of the continent. And now the second difference is that north, global north are the countries which are developed countries, are the countries where the industrial growth, where the industries started at around 2000 200 years ago. These are the countries where the industries started to grow around 200 years ago. And if we look at this south, global south, what we find that most of the countries are the colonies of the mm, mm, north, countries which are consisting global north. And because of this condition, what happened that these colonies were not able to start their industrial growth under the colonial period. That was very limited. And when they became independent, most of them started becoming independent after the Second World War, and then they started the process of industrial development. So this is the condition of north and south. In this discussion, one more thing you must understand, that as we know that the countries which are which are global north, in those countries the industries have started 200 years ago. So these are the countries, these developed countries are responsible for polluting the whole world because of around 200 years of industrial history. They are the problem creator, they are the mm, mm, real culprit, we can say, of the environment because of this long period. And when we consider the countries of the global south, what we find that they have started the process of industrialization just hardly 70 years ago, 70-75 years ago. And so they are not causing that much of environmental degradation as the countries of global north are responsible. Got it? Now I am reading the text. Okay. What was obvious at the Rio summit? All these things became clear when the conferences started to be held at international level. And one such conference was the Rio summit. And in this Rio summit, it was very much obvious that the rich and developed countries of the First World, generally referred to as Global North, were pursuing a different environmental agenda than the poor and developing countries of the Third World, called Global South, where whenever uh, mm, whereas the northern states were concerned with ozone depletion and global warming, the southern states were anxious to address the relationship between economic development and environmental management. So, what we see that the global north, okay, global north are those countries which are developed countries. Okay, now these developed countries are developed, their industries have grown completely, and now they are producing abundance. There is not a problem of backwardness, any kind of problem of backwardness. Absolute poverty is not existing there. Everything is complete. So now their focus is on environmental issues only, because now they have developed to that extent that there is no need of focusing on the agenda of development. Now they are their complete focus is on environmental agenda. And on the other hand, we find the poor countries of global south. They have started their industrial development very late. So in front of them, what is the problem? The problem is poverty is the most important problem. Then there is the gap between the rich and poor. So these countries need the focus of these countries is not environmental issues, they want economic development, but there should be a balance between the economic development and environmental management. This is the concern of the South, global South. Okay, no, global North is only concerned about the environmental matters, and global South are concerned about the balance between economic development and environmental protection, because their economic development, there is a need of more and more economic development in the countries of global south, but they cannot ignore the environmental issues completely, so they want a balance. There should be a balance between economic development and environmental protection. Okay. Now, the Rio Summit produced conventions dealing with climate change, biodiversity, forestry, and recommended a list of developmental practices called Agenda 21. So, we see that Rio Summit has produced many conventions which were related to climate change, biodiversity, forestry, and the most important achievement of Rio Summit was Agenda 21, which was recommended by this summit, and it is a list of development practices. What are the practices a country should adopt in order to protect the environment? These are 21 practices are listed there. This is Agenda 21. But it left unresolved considerable differences and difficulties. It's not like that the Rio Summit was a very great achievement. It was an achievement. It drew the attention of the whole country, whole world towards the environmental problem. It set Agenda 21. So it is very much great achievement. It can be said to be a great achievement, but there are many problems also which are not responded by this summit. And what are these problems? Though there was consensus on combining economic growth and ecological responsibility, it was it was the opinion of the members of the summit that there should be a combination of economic growth and environmental protection. Okay, economic growth should not be done in such a way that environmental become more and more polluted. So this type of approach is known as sustainable development. So in this agenda, it was said that development, we are not stopping the process of development. Development must be there, but that development should be sustainable. ऐसा development जो sustain करे. We are not in favor of a development which will last for the present generation only. We want that type of development that will that will fulfill the needs of the present generation and preserve resources for the future generation. Okay, so this was understood and this was accepted by the summit that the development should be sustainable. But the problem was how to achieve this. Okay, though it has proposed Agenda 21, but this Agenda 21 was not a mm, complete agenda because it was many critics are of the view that this Agenda 21 was biased in favor of economic growth and it was not ensuring ecological or environmental conservation. So, this is about our international efforts at international level done by the international community. So, now we will consider a new issue that is global commons. Global commons are mm, those resources which are not owned by anyone but rather shared by a community. You can think of your own locality. The house in which you live is owned by a particular person. Okay, but the park where all the people can go in the evening or any time, the park is not the private property of any single person, but it is commonly used by people. Okay, then there may be a well, there may be a well which is not owned by a private person, but it is owned by a community. So, in this way, we can understand that commons are those resources which are not owned by any individual. Here, when we are talking in terms of world politics, the commons are not owned by any country. Okay, and it is shared by a community. All the countries of the world can use that resource. This is common. These are called global commons. Okay. In the in our world, there are many common places which are not owned by any particular country. Okay. And the location of such commons, global commons, are such that they are not within the sovereign jurisdiction of any country. Okay. They are outside the sovereign jurisdiction of uh, country. And because of this, there is need of common governance by the international community. Those places or those resources which are not in the which are not within the sovereign jurisdiction of any country, that those commons, global commons and resources are um, governed by international community. They can be shared by all the people, but who can share what, who can share how much, all these things should be decided by international community. Okay. And examples of global commons are earth's atmosphere. Atmosphere is does not belong to anybody. Outer space, Antarctica, the ocean floor, all these are the example of global commons. And it is not easy to achieve international cooperation over the global commons, because all the countries want uh, their complete command over the global commons, especially the countries who are superior, who have influential um, power and position. They would they want that they must have a bigger share, or they must have complete control over the global commons. Though in this direction, many agreements has been achieved, such as 1959 Antarctica Treaty, then 1987 Montreal Protocol, and 1991 Antarctica Environmental Protocol. So, there is a problem in global commons. In order to uh, have complete control over the global commons, the countries lack consensus, and it causes a lot of trouble among the different countries. Now we will study something about Antarctica. The Antarctic continental region extends over 14 million square kilometers and comprises 26% of the world's wilderness area, representing 90% of all terrestrial ice and 70% of planetary freshwater. So, this is the description of Antarctica. It is such a huge area, and no one can have a sovereign right over this continent. It also extends to a further 36 million square kilometers of ocean. Its area is also there in the ocean. It has a limited terrestrial life and a highly productive marine ecosystem. Its life is very less there, uh, almost no, very limited terrestrial life is there, and the marine ecosystem is very productive. Uh, it comprises a few plants such as microscopic algae, fungi, lichen. All these are found in Antarctic. Then marine mammals are there, fish, hordes of birds adapted to harsh conditions, as well as the krill. This all these all are the resources of Antarctica. We are talking about the resources of Antarctica. The Antarctic plays an important role in maintaining climatic equilibrium. Okay. And deep ice cares provide an important source of information about greenhouse gas concentration and atmospheric temperature of hundreds and thousands of years ago. So Antarctica is very much important if we see it uh, from the climatic equilibrium point of view, and it is full of resources also. So what is the problem? The problem is that this continent, the whole continent comes under global commons, because no country has sovereign. This area is completely outside the sovereign control of any country. Okay, so in this there is a very much conflict among different countries for the ownership of this continent. Some countries, now there are two types of opinion of countries. Some countries are there like UK, Argentina, Chile, Norway, France, Australia, New Zealand. These are the countries. We can see Australia, New Zealand, Chile, Argentina, all these countries are in the southern hemisphere, and they are geographically very near to this continent. And UK and France, these are the influential countries, powerful countries, and because of that, uh, these countries made legal claims. They are of the opinion, they are saying that um, they have the legal authority to use their ownership over this continent. Okay, so these are the countries who says that the Antarctica is there. They are the owners of the Antarctica, and because of this, they all are in conflict. But other states have taken a opposite view. They are of the opinion that Antarctic is a part of the global commons and not subject to the exclusive jurisdiction of any state. It is a global common, and no state can claim to have to own this continent. Okay, these differences, however, have not prevented the adoption of innovative and potentially far reaching rules for the protection of the Antarctic environment and its ecosystem. So, what we find that there are some countries who made claim to this continent, but there are many other countries who are supporting the view that it should remain a global common only. Okay, and because of this, what we find is that many rules have been made for the protection of the environment of Antarctica, and for the protection of its ecosystem. At international conventions, many rules have been made for that. The Antarctic and the Arctic polar regions are subject to specific regional rules of environmental protection. Okay, since 1959, activities in the area have been limited to scientific research. In 1959, Antarctic Treaty was done, and because of the terms of this treaty, what happened that in the Antarctic region, only scientific research activities are allowed, and other than scientific research activities, fishing and tourism is also allowed. So this is the effect of the Antarctic Treaty of 1959, that now there can be only three types of activities in the Antarctica, that is scientific research, fishing, and tourism. But these limited activities have not prevented parts of the region from being degraded by waste as a result of oil spill. What happened that the Treaty of 1959 has gave permission for these three activities, but these three activities have started polluting the atmosphere of Antarctica. So this is what we understand by global common. Um, how is global common are managed, how different countries want to have ownership over these global commons, and how international treaties are done in order to uh, make regulations regarding the global commons. All these things have been discussed under this. Now we will discuss the matter in tomorrow's class.